Hot Mix 5 style during the BMX era. A lot of people described it as the best in the world at that time. And when you think about it, how does a new worldwide genre of music start? It was the way it was packaged in the Hot Mix 5's turntable skills, playing 30 songs in 30 minutes and just crazy edits. But the Hot Mix 5 style is what helped bring house music to the masses. In 1981, Lee Michaels had a vision. He wanted to bring the art of turntablism to radio. On station WBMX, he was a program director and he seeked out the top turntablism DJs with the art of turntablism and brought them to radio, thus forming the Hot Mix 5. In the early 80s, Robert Williams came to Chicago via New York City to open an underground dance club with a New York flavor. The first thing he did was bring in Frankie Knuckles from New York City on a recommendation. Secondly, he hired Ron Hardy. This underground club became widely known in the early 80s with its soulful disco. It's since been recognized as one of Chicago's original underground clubs. Italo disco started to trickle into Chicago in the early 80s, 83, 84. By 85, it was full-blown. Hot Mix 5 radio show was a mixture of this new sound, Chicago house, and Italo disco. It's interesting, WBMX Chicago lives in infamy. The radio station became the mouthpiece for house music. Without WBMX, it's interesting what we would call it. We wouldn't be calling it house music at this time, but WBMX became the mouthpiece, broke all the records for a major market, over 2 million listeners. It was #1 in Chicago, and people used to record cassette tapes and send them across the world. It was just an amazing, amazing time. Rocky Jones, during the early house movement, decided to create a vehicle for top producers in Chicago that could record their music, put it on vinyl, and give it to the Hot Mix 5 to get it played on WBMX. And for the first time, a kid that was making an 8-track in his basement, he would take them in the studio, record them, polish it up, press it on vinyl, and all of a sudden there was this new vehicle that helped house music go fast forward. When house music started taking off, I was getting hired and coming to London about every month. It was really hard to understand. I had no idea really what the depth of what was going on. Our record label that we started, Hot Mix 5 Records, I had no idea where it was being played or whatever. I just thought people were hiring me because they were hearing about me from the show. It took quite a while for that to sink in, like, wow, I can't believe all this is happening. The cool thing about the Hot Mix 5 show, we had guests every week, and we would take different guys we knew and put them on. We had an hour at the end of the show that we played the guests. There really wasn't any rivalries. There was a lot of groups of smaller stations that would like to challenge WBMX, but it was like a man amongst boys pretty much. Our style was so unique and so ahead of the curve. Everybody was trying to mimic us during that time, but their ratings would never come remotely close to what we were doing. The Chicago house scene during the 80s was pretty crazy during those days. Clubs just popped up everywhere. Everybody was banging house. You could go to malls, you'd hear house music. You could walk down the street. You started to hear it in restaurants. People that were vendors on the street were playing it. The sound just sprinkled everywhere. It was just so unique during that time. All the clubs playing it. We'd get the new test copies, we'd play it. Jesse Jones from Loop Records told me he would sell thousands of an individual single on Monday just because we played it and broke it over the weekend. The Hot Mix 5 record label started right around 85, 86. What happened was me, Ralphie, and Kenny talked about doing a label. I went out and actually financed Hot Mix 5 101, which was my house is bigger than your house. I pressed up about 5,000 over a month. I sold them all out. I took the money, I grabbed Ralphie and Kenny. We went in the studio and produced You Used to Hold Me, which of course was our biggest record. I think we sold about over 100,000 worldwide just during the next several years. Right after that, we brought in Mario Diaz and quite a few other guys to do different cameo appearances and songs and so forth. But the main core of the Hot Mix 5 was me, Ralphi Rosario, and Kenny Jason. We did a lot of our work at C-Grade Studios on the north side. Mike and Tommy were the engineers there. We made the standard like Roland 909 and 808 drum machines. We used the 727, 606, the Roland Acid 303, even Roland keys we used, I think the DX7. That was pretty much a lot of the equipment we used. In the early days, the Warehouse and the Music Box were classic Chicago clubs that were playing disco. It was pre-house time, so during that time, house music had not yet been born. But the guys that were playing, Ron Hardy and Frankie Knuckles, they were playing New York-style disco. Kind of, I guess you could call it soulful disco. And the thing about the Warehouse, people wanted to be cool, so they said they're going down to the house, calling it house music. Even though it wasn't what it was today, it was soulful disco. People wanted to be cool and saying they're going to the house, and that's when Frankie Knuckles and Ron Hardy were playing soulful disco at those two clubs. Then as the years went by, house music became its own genre, and the whole city lit up with this new sound and gravitated. And so did Frankie and Ron. They started playing house music. The Hot Mix 5 never really played soulful disco. We were playing more R&B, some New York beats like Freeze, AEIOU. We were playing stuff like that, and then all of a sudden Italo disco and house music started coming, and that became our stamp. Because we were already playing drum machines and keyboard lines in our show, but as the genre became its own in 1985, that's when house music was full-blown and the Hot Mix 5 was the leader of the charge. We broke basically every house record in Chicago during that era. You Used to Hold Me, Can You Dance, and Intensity are three huge records that came from the Hot Mix 5. It's hard to say where the inspiration came from, but it was like a feeling of this new sound that was embracing Chicago. Percussion-ish, bass-line-driven music that just started coming from Chicago and grew. So I guess I would have to say it was a byproduct of this whole scene that was percolating. Xavier Gold, who sang You Used to Hold Me, she was found by Ralphie and Kenny. They had known her, and she was actually an up-and-coming DJ, too. We brought her into the studio, and Magic King on Used to Hold Me. Paris Gray's real name is Shauna Jackson. She first appeared on my Intensity LP as Shauna J. Just a stunning vocalist. You could see that there was major league potential. As soon as she sang Never Let Go and a couple other songs on my album, a lot of people came calling. Next thing you know, she was on Virgin Records and the voice of Inner City, singing the multi-platinum songs Good Life and Big Fun.